about what consumers are looking for and what they want. We want to move now towards how can we as businesses leverage the technologies available to actually enable better user experiences. And I'd like to welcome to the stage Sales Director Grant James, who will be moderating the panel, Sipho Tshabalala, Digital Product Lead at Nedbank, Daniel Courtenay, Executive Head of DStv Stream at MultiChoice, Mladen Čolić, Sales VP of Fintech Africa at TransUnion, and Glenn Grimley, Chief Specialist Digital Proposition Management at Stash and the Liberty Group.
So it'll be myself, Sipho, Mladen, Glenn, and Daniel. So it's good to see the interaction this morning. I think we've had some good conversation, good keynote, good panel discussion now. And I think some of these topics naturally flow into each other. Like we're speaking about personalization now, we're speaking about the future of the consumer earlier. But I thought just before kicking off, we should do a quick survey of the room. And I'd like to know, just by show of hands, right? Who in the last week has received an unsolicited text message or a phone call where someone was clearly reading a script trying to sell you something? Just show of hands. Okay, so that's like 80% of the crowd. True caller failed me as well. So it's happened a few times. Okay, who found themselves on social media viewing video after video because you found something interesting or the next video is somewhat relevant to you and you've just continued watching? Who's found themselves doing that over the last week? Okay, and in these moments where you've continued watching, has there ever been an advert that's popped up that's created a trigger to purchase, where you've had a specific item that's been shown to you that you've been interested in? Show of hands. Okay. Who's received a birthday message from a brand and it's made you feel somewhat warm and fuzzy? So I think that's all interesting, right? Because it all plays into this topic of personalization and what personalization and the user experience looks like. And when we landed on this topic of bringing personalization to the user experience, I did what certain non-creative millennials would do, and I plugged in, tell me about personalization and the user experience, into ChatGPT, or ChatGPT as some of us call it, and waited for the response. I did some research, took what the data that ChatGPT provided, and ultimately, personalization is subjective, right? It's specific to a specific user. It requires an understanding of preferences, behavior, and needs to be tailored. It involves creating a unique and customized experience for each user and making their interactions more relevant, efficient, and enjoyable. So whether this be an algorithm that knows you well on social media, an e-commerce discount when you put your item into the basket and you haven't checked it out yet, or showing you these items that represent your preference over time, getting lost in a Spotify song preference playlist, your name on a Starbucks cup, or a happy birthday song and meal that's fit. The outcome for businesses is essentially increased user engagement, enhanced customer satisfaction, higher conversion rates through the acquisition funnel, improved retention, better use of data, and ultimately can be a competitive advantage. So these are all the positives, and there are also concerns and challenges, right, around ethical practices, in relation to privacy, data usage, and really striking this balance between personalization and intrusiveness. So times have changed. We've heard this as a recurring theme today. The consumer has changed. Therefore, businesses have needed to change the way that they win consumers' attention and ultimately the share of their wallets. So on this panel today, we're going to unpack this. It's a lot, so we're going to focus on a few key parts, share some successes, war stories, and thoughts really on how we can improve this, right? So I think first off, Glenn, I'll come to you and a little bit around the Stash business, right? And maybe in that you can also share an introduction and a little bit around what you do at Sash. But can you explain what personalization in the user experience means to you, and how would you describe this with regards to Sash?
Thanks for taking me first off. I'll do a little quick introduction on what Sash is. Sash is a micro-investment platform. It allows customers to download an app, and then based on their own personal lived experiences, they invest little bits of money every day. And really, the whole purpose of what Sash was to break that very low-touch insurance and investment journey that people go on. And what's been great for me from my career, you can see by the grey, I've been around for a while. This was the first time I was able to really bring client centricity into a product development and design. And client centricity, ultimately, to me, is the customer's personal experience. And so what it means for us within Sash is to take customers on a journey and use their everyday lived experiences to save and invest, get to a goal that is very personal to them. And there's different ways that you can do it, and you mentioned that there's some creepy ways. But the ways that we've tried to enliven these is by putting some quirky features into the app. It allows people to choose how much and when they invest, but also to bring a little bit of fun to it, and then in the end, celebrate their successes with them. And so, using those different techniques, we built those features and those experiences into the app, and they really resonate with customers. It's amazing, when we did the research back in 2016, the overwhelming answer was people can't invest, they just don't have the capacity, they don't have the financial means. But once we brought this utility to the market, we've now got 400,000 customers that have downloaded the app, started their investment journeys, and are investing anything from 100 Rand a month all the way to 3,000, 6,000 Rand a month, all using their everyday experiences in the process.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting, right? Sash's model being a B2C model. We obviously have different companies represented in this panel, and Sipho, I want to come to you next, because obviously our engagements have been across a series of companies that have all been B2C focused, right, that you worked across. So if you could share what personalization means to you and how this plays out with regards to businesses that you've worked in, right? And maybe give a quick introduction and the different stages that we've known each other across.
Yeah, I'm Sipho Tshabalala. I've got a bone to grind with them, but I'm not Tsaba. I don't know how you catch that. But I'm Sipho Tshabalala. I currently manage client-facing channels for Nedbank Africa. Africa is everything excluding South Africa, by the way. I don't know why we still don't see South Africa as part of Africa, but it's 5 regions I manage customer-facing channels only. So I think, as Grant has said, I've kind of worked in multiple industries as young as I am, but I'm just going to really put on the Nedbank hat to answer this specific one. So I think what personalization and user experience does and will do for us is really how we tailor our interactions across the channels that we actually engage our customers on. I think it becomes really imperative for us in how we do that, right? I think with all the data and the tools we have today, we can lose that personal touch because you see people as numbers, figures, and that's how you design your experience. And across different channels, and particularly what I want to touch on is our human channels. You can imagine today, me who feel interacting with a human over telesales or going to a bank branch is a personal experience. What about putting the data and the insights in the hand of that staff member that creates a really expounded, for me, customer experience at that point. So humans still remain the most important customer touch point for us to introduce personalization for a better customer experience.
Awesome. So that's been a very B2C focus, right? So Nedbank is working directly with consumers. So And Mladen, coming to you, maybe a different view of this, right? Because a lot of the companies that you've worked for have been B2B2C, right? Which is actually a similar positioning to Stitch, where our customer are the companies, and then the company's customer is the consumer. So how have you thought about personalization in the businesses that you work for?
Thanks, Ron. Morning, team. Before I answer that question, quickly, how many of you had actually downloaded your credit reports in the last year? Okay, and of those that have hands up, who knows what their score is right now? Okay, all right, better than I expected, so it's great. So check your credit report, guys. But coming from a B2B2C, there's a lot of data that we see, and I think I just want to kind of see the brands that are sitting in the audience, and just you're obviously talking about the customer journey. So there's a mention around the inequalities in South Africa and the long journey that we've been on and still need to go to get the financial inclusion, the underbanked, the underserved into the formal economy. We see around 110,000 new to credit consumers coming into the economy every month. That means someone either new to a personal loan, a credit card, a young employee, or a first job. That is your future consumer that you want to obviously interact, or what do they look like. Interestingly, of that 110,000, 65% of them open up a retail account as their first credit line. So that means anyone in the retail industry, that's usually where they start their credit journey, understanding how to use credits. So the data that the interaction, the data point that you come up there, the upsell, cross-sell, and then obviously from a bureau perspective, we start seeing more activity as they mature, how do they pay that account back. Surprisingly or unsurprisingly, we do see of those 110,000 consumers that come into the market, 1 in 3 default within the first year, meaning they miss a payment, therefore it goes as a derogatory data point or a negative data point against their credit reports, and then the lenders see that the consumer is a little bit risky to lend to. So it's very important to understand who's the funnel that's coming in that you are going to be marketing to. 60% of those consumers that are coming in monthly are female. So, if your target audience isn't that gender, or if it is, it's these tidbits that just gives you that personalization, advantage to competitors. And then finally, at the age group that really makes up the bulk, about 50% of that new to credit industry is 18 to 25, which makes sense, out of varsity, first job, first credit line. But we are seeing an interesting trend where we're seeing the 55 plus. So, the older, potential retirees, are they now, is that a consequence of education, new products, new developments that is allowing them more internet penetration? Is it smartphone usage? Is it remittances that they're paying? It's just an interesting insight that we're seeing on the bureau. So what we do with obviously our clients is slightly differently. Obviously we have a lot of data, our clients have a lot of data, and what we do together is in a very collaborative kind of workshop is understanding what they're trying to achieve from a go-to-market perspective. On our side, obviously we can see affordability and income as those are the two main impacts that you obviously when you go to market. You don't want to be marketing to people that cannot afford your products. There's a lot of wastage, there's a lot of call centers that are digital or call center. You want to eradicate any of the rats and mice that are going to backlog your operations. So we look at customization and creating personas because on the bureau I can see Mladen has got the car that he drives, the house that he has, the dependents, so we can create personas, and that's what we do with our clients. We take them on their journey, we create personas, we help them, whether depending on what channel they want to use, but really we do a lot of work up front so that the funnel isn't backlogged by rubbish, and obviously the conversions and the uptakes and the cross-sells, they're on book better, and then obviously conversions and upsells is obviously good for the business.
Awesome. I want to touch on something that you mentioned there, just around the channels. And it's so interesting. So most of the Stitch team here is obviously based in Cape Town, and one of the Stitch's brothers did a trip to Joburg, and he came back obviously traumatized by the experience. And he said, in Joburg, I feel like everything is shouting at me. And you speak about the multi-channel approach and what this is like. I think that there's a huge war for consumer attention right now, right? And Daniel, I want to come to you on this one because I think that streaming isn't immune to this war, right? There's multiple players that have moved into the market. Competition is heightened. And for you and DStv Stream, can you share some of the reasons why personalization is increasingly important in today's digital landscape? And how does it impact your customer satisfaction as well as loyalty?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Grant. I mean, I think every day we are just exposed to so much digital content, right? I heard a stat, I'm not sure how valid it is, but somebody said that South Africans on average are scrolling the equivalent of the height of the Eiffel Tower on a daily basis, right? So we are thrown just so much content, and the reality is that if we have to sort of wade through that, we sort of find ourselves in a state of decision inertia, and we've all experienced that when we're looking at like Netflix in the evening, trying to find something to watch, and we just can't find anything to watch. We kind of just keep scrolling, the same you spoke about it when you open this panel. So, you know, if you combine that with the fact that in our example, you know, we have so much content that we've tailored for so many different, you know, sort of demographics and people and languages and things like that, it could be very difficult for you to find what you wanted if we just presented you with a dump of content in an environment, right? And increasingly the competition is coming into this market, whether it's global or local, and even the local free TVs are starting to do this really, really well. So we have to ensure that what we do for our customers from a personalization perspective is front and center. So when you come onto the platform, you know, based on things that you've watched and engaged with, you know, we need to make sure that you're being served with similar sort of content and stuff that is going to entice you to watch the next best thing to watch and obviously keep you on the platform. The challenge of streaming is that, well, I guess TV in general these days globally is that it's the behavior of the customer has changed and evolved, and there's this trend and return behavior. So as much as we try to sort of model retention and things that are going to help us improve retention, there's just so much choice out there, and customers are going to come in and customers are going to leave. And so when they're on the platform, it is so incredibly important to make sure that we're giving them what they want. And then of course, you know, our competition is doing this really well, so it's important that we can compete and do that at the same time. And then I guess the last thing I'll say about, you know, why it's important for us and what it does from a retention perspective is obviously understanding our customer and their viewing behavior gives us it gives us a real opportunity to speak to them on a one-to-one basis. So even when they do churn, we have the opportunity to speak to them and bring them back on the back of content that they've previously engaged with and that they really enjoy. And that helps with conversion rates and obviously then all of the other stuff starts to fly when they're on the platform with them.
Yeah, I love how you speak about that use of data, because obviously within the realm of personalization, the efficiency and the use of data becomes incredibly important, right? And in a similar vein, right, would love to understand how you guys have thought about personalization in terms of customer satisfaction, right? And really satisfying your users. You spoke a little bit earlier around like creating the personas and the like, but yeah, could you share a little more on that?
So obviously our end consumer is obviously where we intrinsically align. So obviously we want to make sure that we're providing the input files, the cohorts that obviously resonate with our clients' needs. So we try to the hip in terms of, you know, we create value for our customer, they create value for the end consumer. So it's incredibly important. Loyalty, you know, making sure we get the right product at the right price, the right channel at the right time. So that's really where it's really a collaborative approach with our clients. Whether it be, as I said, a call center, outbound, whether it's inbound, whether it's a digital channel, you know, we really do sit on a lot of data. I think, you know, the point around that we are just bombarded with information, we're bombarded with SMSs, you know, phone calls. It's the fact that I think there are brands that are just not doing it well, so they are spamming and just throwing out and creating a lot of noise and unfortunately bad experiences for the majority of people who are trying to actually do the right thing. But you know, it does take a ecosystem, a creation of partnerships that, you know, people can monetize their data in a very, you know, privacy preserving way. There's new technologies out there in the market, and I think one of the questions maybe later will respond to who's doing a good job. And I think that's kind of where we're going to go. But I think for us, loyalty, if our end consumers' loyalty drive is there, they're constantly at the forefront. That is their key KPI. It's important for us, and that's how we enable our customers.
Yeah, I love the beat on data, and I want to stay on that wave. Sipho, coming to you. When we were catching up and speaking around this, we did our preparatory call. We're speaking about the use of AI in personalization. Maybe wearing a different hat, but how do you find, or how do you see technology and data analytics? How can this be used to enhance personalization in the user experience, and specifically what tools can be used that are helpful there?
Just on the tools, I think we all know the tools that are out there. I mean, generative AI is a big thing right now. There's also recommendation engines that are out there, maybe some providers that are also sitting here today that do that, and also just some machine learning engines that you can use to do that. I think with that said, with all the technology there, you still need a human at the end to look at the stuff, right? It's very imperative because you feed the machine the data, it gives you what it needs to give you, right? And the human at the end is still needed to do that. So in as much as the technology helps us, because some of us, I mean, we have millions of customers, so we have vast amounts of data sitting everywhere. So the technology helps us to centralize that data and get those insights and understand individually the preferences, the behaviors of our users, right? Almost moving us from previously segmenting a group of people and building product versus to what can we do for the specific individual. So the technology remains very, very powerful to do that today. But again, I think the most important part is how do we use this technology responsibly? We've seen things like certain biases, especially in South Africa. If you want to be cancelled, don't get someone to check what the technology is recommending and say it to the people. So check for these biases, continually refresh your personalization techniques that you use in these tools as well.
I think that's a super good point. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and Glenn, I'm going to come to you because I think Stash is a fascinating business, and you and I have had like really deep discussions around Stash, the user, what you're looking to do for the user. And I'd love to know some of the strategies that have proven most effective for you in creating like personalized experiences. When we spoke about one the other day with stashes that have newborn babies, can you share like some of the personalization techniques that you use to help drive more stashing?
Yeah, so I think what I want to say is our personalisation is in the journey, customer experience. That's what we're focusing on. We're trying to build a relationship with these customers so we can get them into life and invest in products within a bigger group. But we've used a lot of techniques to embed the journey into our customers' lives. So within the app, we've got six different features that you can switch on and off depending on your unique financial reality real time. And some are really boring, some are more quirky. I mean, the boring one, for instance, and this is a really important feature we've got. It's called Daily Stash, and you can switch it on and you can start daily stashing in 5 Rand or 10 Rand a day. And the personalisation that we've got in there is we say to our customers in their own time, start at 10. And if you invest 10 Rand a day, that's 20 Rand a month. And if you reach that milestone and everything's happy, why don't you dial it up? You open the app and you dial it up to 20 Rand. That's your own personal choice. You get there the next month, you do 20 Rand, that's 600 Rand a month, but that's too much. You just dial it down again. So we're bringing using technology to bring that personal experience to the customer. But that's the boring one. Then we have a couple of other quirky ones. We've got Sunny Money, which is basically saying your lived experience is sunny today. Why don't you save the temperature of the day for a rainy day? Gets a couple of laughs, it's very well.
There's a load shedding one as well.
There's a load shedding one, and each one really had a little thought behind it. Load shedding, for instance, there's so many people who say, I just can't save and invest. And I mean, South African saving rate is negative by many metrics. So we were trying to let people understand that there's always opportunity. So if you're sitting in the dark because of load shedding, you're not spending money on electricity. So take that opportunity and have the app automatically. You don't have to go and open the app and press it. You have the app save 5, 10, 20 rand. And again, based on your unique experience, I might stay in a small house and my electricity bill's very small, but you might stay in a mansion. So you've got the ability via the app to dial up how much you want to stash and even multiply it by the stage of load shedding, which, some people get a little bit burnt by that. But there's all of these kind of aspects that we've tried to bring into it. But what it's meant to do is it's meant to build a relationship with the customer as a brand, but also the customer within their own savings journey. So that when they get to that end point, everyone has a reason to save. And so many of our competitors focus on that reason to save. We're kind of saying, that's your savings journey. We're not that interested in it. We're trying to get you there. And once we get you there, we'll celebrate with you. And yeah, it's a nice journey. We haven't reached the pinnacle by any special imagination we're getting
there. I just want to say I don't stay in a mansion. Cape Town is very expensive. But to pull on the one thread that you mentioned, just around personalization of the journey, there was a tidbit that you shared last night, and I'd love it if you could share it with the audience as well. Just around stashers who are having kids or saving for kids, and some of the personalization that you brought to that journey. You could share that?
Yeah, well, anyone who has a child or has had a child, that's probably one of the most personal experiences in your life. And I've got a colleague out there, she sort of came up with the idea that we had a subset of our product which is Stash for Kids, so you can open up an investment account for your kids in their name. And through that, obviously, we get to understand what the age of your child is. And if your child is younger than 1 year, we'll then send you a little baby grow with a Stash logo, and really what it does is just cements our relationship with you. Obviously, it's a long-term play. We're trying to hook in a 9-month-old for life. But through that, what comes out, people take photographs, put it on Instagram, and suddenly you're starting to build a community of these like-minded people who are all trying to reach a better financial outcome for themselves and their kids. And it's great to be part of that journey with you, and great to be bringing in those personal elements and putting it into the journey with you. And the app that we've designed is very, very simple, and when people see the app, they think it might be too simple, but it's done on purpose. The reason why you're stashing is because you want to get to a balance of some metrics so that you can reach the savings goal. So when you open the app, the very first thing you see is your balance, and that's quite important. Again, brings that journey to life every time you open your app, and people open the app 4, 5, 6 times a month, which is a great opportunity for us.
Awesome. I think you also shared last night that you geolocate customers, so that's how you know their address.
That was on the low now. For personalisation to work, you actually need data. And it's very important.
Yeah, it's great use case.
If you get the wrong data, you have negative personalisation, right? So to get data, there's different ways of doing it. What we found is that if you provide people with a proposition that resonates with them, they'll actually share data. So it's only money for it to work. We need to know where you are and know that it's sunny where you are so we can let you invest. So you give us permission to geolocate you. That is obviously a very strong data point for us for future things.
Yeah, definitely. Daniel, in speaking with you, doing some research as well, you have a media agency background, lots of performance advertising in the roles that you previously had. And I'm sure this has all been helpful in your role at DStv Sleep now, right? So can you share what strategies have proven most effective in creating a personalized user experience, and why, how, or what are you planning on implementing to meet demand for personalization?
Sure. It's a layered question. There are a few different aspects, I guess, that we could address, when it comes to what we've done. I think on the marketing side, obviously, being a subscription business gives us access to a lot of granular data.
Yeah.
The fact that people are watching content gives us another layer, and it helps us really understand what they like. And we can build pretty granular cohorts and personas off the back of that. We work with some pretty cool automated marketing tooling, which allows us to either share personalized comms through our direct channels, or with some other tooling we can do that across social channels, etc., which allows us to do it in like an anonymized way, but still targeting a particular cohort that we feel will engage with certain messaging. And then when we think about our CDM channel, very personalized, and there's sort of a stepped approach when we're either onboarding a brand new customer or when we're trying to reconnect a customer that we
So did you say CDM channel?
CDM, yeah. So that also is an interesting channel for us, because we speak very heavily about content discovery in that journey, and it immediately starts to give us a sense of what people are going to like or what resonates with them. Maybe just by way of asking the question, like, what is out of these titles, what do you like? And then when we get on to the platform part, so now that we've brought a customer into the ecosystem, or we've won them back, personalization, like, really strategically is at the core of everything that we do. I don't know, we have a commercial standalone product, and we also, if you're a decoder customer, we have a companion app, which is the same thing. And in the last 6 weeks, we've just launched our brand new UI, which is a marked improvement, and I spoke about it, sort of a dump of content, which I feel like was the previous world we were playing in. I mean, we don't profess to be perfect, we're learning, and this is a journey for us, but that improvement is rooted in personalization, and what we've been able to do from a meta perspective, what we've been able to do in terms of building rows that are specifically, we have a row now called Just For You, we have a row called Because You Watched. Those are really personalized, like recommendation rows that are tailored specifically for you. And the way that we are now using enhanced meta and cluster algorithms and that kind of stuff to deliver the kind of content that you will enjoy because of what you've engaged with previously, it really just enhances the customer experience when they're in that consumption mindset. So yeah, it cuts across, but it's core to everything that we do and the way that we acquire and retain.
I actually think the DStv stream model is really interesting, because there's almost two ways that you could work with the customer, right? There's the live TV customer, so someone who's coming on streaming sports. What are their preferences outside of that for live TV? And then there's the person who's going to stream the or want to watch pre-recorded shows. But like, how do you guys think about that and like designing those journeys for both of those sorts of customers?
Intently, I would say. So, I mean, interestingly, so we relaunched the Stream standalone product in August last year, and it was just before the World Cup, probably not a coincidence, the World Cup rugby. Supersport has more live sports, we broadcast more live sport than any other broadcast on the planet, right? So, and that is all live. So that drives a lot of sort of acquisition type behavior, and we also, it drives a lot of churn and return behavior. So I know pretty much that we've just had 4 months of rugby, people are going to come in for that. People that love football will do the same thing. It's a little bit different with live television, because I think that people have moved away from this appointment viewing type thing. It actually still exists. We absolutely still have telenovelas that run for months on end. We've got great local content and people get excited about watching on a particular night. But we try to package it in a broad type of way, which makes you feel like you've got this on-demand experience while it's still appointment viewing. And everyone in this room has experienced when you go onto, whether it's Apple Plus or Prime or Netflix, and hopefully DStv streams certain things, but you've got a tile that feels like you're choosing what to watch. A lot of the networks are now dropping 2 episodes and then they'll say next episode is on Wednesday. Before, we used to think about that as like a linear line, right? So you can watch next week Wednesday when the show is coming. Now it feels like, wow, but it's just being presented differently. So it's kind of those kind of things that we pay attention to in terms of how we present and personalize. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super interesting, and it makes me think a little bit about success, right? And where we've seen examples of personalization being successfully implemented, right? So, Mladen, I want to come to you with that. If you have any examples of brands, businesses where you've seen this being successfully implemented, and what could we learn from those approaches?
Yeah, really cool insight there. I think for me it's the fact that your consumer doesn't just play in your ecosystem. The fact that the bank client doesn't just live in your ecosystem. They shop, they gym, so these ecosystems that your consumers, digital touch points, physical, offline, doesn't really matter. They live in all types of different ecosystems. So that data then lives in another ecosystem. If you don't have privy to the sight of it, you might miss the mark. And I think there's some really cool technologies out there. There's a fintech in Cape Town called Omniscient. They are a data privacy preserving company. So what they do is they take first-party data. So they can take company A, company B. They anonymize it. They use encryption, and then they allow parties to beforehand would take years to get contracting done to actually just explore this data. You put it into a sandbox environment. You can really start just figuring out, should we or should we not even start a conversation about partnering because our overlap is too small or things like that. So there's a big push from a technology perspective. Then regulation came along and kind of why these privacy enhancing technology companies are starting to come alive. You got the likes of like LiveRamp overlapping internationally. Why did they come about is because regulation came about with GDPR overseas and Popia in South Africa saying use what data, how are you using it, how are you storing it, how are you destructing it. You can't process it out, have you given consent? There's this big, wide pool of things that marketers need to consider. And I think out of all of this, this concept called retail media started coming about. So, Amazon have done retail media for a number of years now. It's very successful. I think last year they made $46 billion in retail media, more than Coca-Cola's entire revenue line. So just by automating data and monetizing their data and allowing advertisers to market into their base. So with all that context, ShopRite, I think for me, is doing a really good job with Rainmaker Media. I think the ability of them using a data privacy preserving technology where they load their data. They know Mladen has just started buying nappies, size 0. He's probably got a kid who's 0 to 3 months. Then he's going to 1, then he's going to 2, then he's buying purity, baby food. He's starting to buy house mat things. They've started creating personas themselves. And who would have thought 5-10 years ago, baked beans retailer would become a massive retail media marketer. Previously, they would make money out of selling their insights back to Omo and peanut butter providers. Now they're going to the banks and saying, we can actually give you pet or insure. Maybe the example of they can tell you how many pet owners are in my base. So from a pet insurance marketer, you don't want to go to spam 5 million consumers. There are 3 distinct million consumers. I'm just making that up. Within the ShopRite base that you go in off, and then you obviously publish an ad via digital channels. So I think ShopRite are doing a really good job using obviously their data, internal data, but using new technologies that are out there in the market to really revolutionize personalization.
Yeah, great points. And we're going to need to wrap this up soon. So I have one general question for the panel, and would love it if you could all give some input on this. But what are the common pitfalls businesses should avoid when using customer data for personalization? And how can they ensure they use this data responsibly and effectively? Sipho, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think on this one quickly, it's really important. I know things like generative AI are slowly starting to get integrated and everything else, but I also learned this morning one of the tools we all use is LinkedIn. They have this generative AI policy that's there, and they've used what I call dark UX for all of us to accept that. So we've consented without knowing. So absolutely still remains important to be transparent to customers as we use these tools. Transparent, accept explicitly, and let's read our terms and conditions. I think it's becoming more and more important now for us to read these terms and conditions. Yes. This data is being used.
Yes, what I think compliance, transparency. I think the consent piece, which is often super hot water if you don't get that right. And I think you just need to understand that granularity and the depth of that data. So is it a specific moment in time someone bought something and you're making a persona out of that person? So you need to have consistency of a trend of that data to make an informed decision. So I'd say, kind of depth, granularity of the data, and then the regulatory compliance consent piece.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything we said there. 54 seconds. I think with data, please don't get it wrong. Don't use garbage in, garbage out to everyone. But the other one is don't be creepy. It's very easy to move past that line. So.
I also agree with what everyone said. I mean, for me, two words that stand out are like don't abuse data and consent. I mean, we are fortunate that we've got a pretty rigorous data compliance layer that exists in our business, keeps us honest. But just customers don't want to be sold and sold out. So I respect that, and I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think a big takeaway from me here is like the customer is changing, right? And there's a lot of businesses that are doing very exciting things from a personalization perspective, and ultimately personalization leads to better business outcomes. But again, striking that balance between personalization and inclusiveness is like one that we need to weigh very, very carefully. To make sure that we can create the best outcomes for consumers, ultimately creating the best outcomes for ourselves. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Round of applause.